Zapraszam teraz gości z Londynu. To będzie Rachel Bracer i Paul Callahan z Discover Children Center.
Hello everybody. I'd also like to say thank you very much for inviting us to be part of the project and to the conference here today. My name is Paul Callahan. I'm the General Manager at Discover, and this is Rachel, who's the Marketing and Communications Manager. Together we're going to kind of do a double act and talk to you about Discover, about the project, a little bit of the history of how we're established, which is quite important, but primarily how we operate as a business as well. It's a lot of similarities between the projects that are happening here, also with the projects in Belfast. So what is Discover? This is one of our users. It's a hands-on centre, hands-on discovery. It's an American model, which is a lot of research, a lot of work has been done about how children learn, and the best way they learn is by play. So the centre that we have now and the work that we do in the community and through projects is all to do with play, to do with stories, and to do with creative arts. We're based in East London. We'll talk a little bit about the geography of the area and the makeup of the people who live there. Over in a year at Discover, we have approximately 70,000 people who participate in projects or visit the centre and take part in events that we deliver. So we operate as a charity, a non-government organisation. This slide, just to give you a kind of context, is one of the events that we deliver in the centre. We work a lot with professional creative people, artists, illustrators and writers. This is two illustrators at the front, and an audience of people who come to the centre. The illustrators are taking ideas from the children are shouting out things, and the illustrators are drawing them on the boards at the front. As a charity, what we do is aim to deliver excellent artistic experiences for children and their families. We work with children from 0 to 11-year-olds, and their families come to the centre, but we also do work outside in the community as well. So I'm going to hand over to Rachel, who's going to talk a little bit about the area where we're based.
Yeah, I think it's important to explain part of the success of Discover and the way that it works is because of where it's situated. So as you can see over here, it's very densely populated, we've got lots of streets, but what's also important is we're about 5 minutes away from a major transport hub, which you can see here. It's the second largest transport hub in London now. We've got not only international trains will be going in there shortly, but also DLR. It's very well linked up to central London networks, so that's an important point to make as well. But also over here at the moment it looks like a big blank space. It isn't any longer. What's happening over there is the Olympic Stadium for 2012 has been built. Also within that site though, there's also thousands and thousands of homes being built. So there's a massive regeneration project happening basically across the road of from Discover as well, and that's very important to the work that we do within the centre and outside as well. It's very important to explain a little bit more about the makeup of the borough that we live in and the local neighbourhoods as well. So as you can see from my index here, actually Newham, which is where Discover is based in, is one of the most deprived boroughs in England, and as you can see our neighbouring boroughs, which we also work in and visitors to the centre come from, is also some of the most deprived areas in England, which I think is an important point to make. I also would say as well that within Newham we have the largest proportion of 0 to 9-year-olds. It's a massive population of very small children. And we also have over 180 languages spoken within our borough as well, which I think is also very important to why we're situated there within that. So we've kind of established a need for us to have our centre and for it to be focusing on literacy and where we are. But also it's important to say how we started. So the building blocks of Discover, it came from a collaboration between the Gulbenkian Foundation, Community Links and the Stratford Development Partnership that were dealing with regeneration within that area. So they basically were a partnership that formed Discover, and from there we also had a very important research agency that went out and started collecting data about the borough, what the needs were, and did a really thorough market analysis of where we were. On top of that, we then did a whole exhibition workshop programme. We wanted the community to really invest in, thank you, to have ownership of the centre. So we went out, we did lots and lots of workshops in community settings, but we also ran a programme in schools as well. As you can see here, that's one of our outside workshops that we did at an outside festival. Here is our schools project here, where we had a big inflatable bubble that we took out with us, and we did lots of work in schools and around the local area. I'm going to pass you back over to Paul now, who's going to explain a little bit more about the building, which is a very important part of Discover. Oh, I've got a security thing.
Rachel's talked about the need and the geography of the area. The next phase of the project and the work that we did started with a capital project. Crucially, for the sustainability of us as an organisation, this has been the mainstay of what we do and how we operate. In 2000, we negotiated a lease with local council. And they basically gave us the two buildings you can see at the top there, and importantly, on a 99-year lease. And that has allowed us to have a great freedom with what we do, with the work that we do with the children and families in the area. The important things were that the lease was 99 years. The terms of the lease that we agreed with them was to do with the activity that could happen inside the building. We were restricted from doing pure commercial activity. We were limited to doing activity which was focused on the charitable aims, so working with children and families, but also training and childcare provision. They were the things that we were permitted to use the building for. So as part of the first phase, we formed a partnership with a local training provider, and almost from day one, when the lease was signed, they were part of the project. And we sublet the building, you can see on the right-hand side, to them. They brought in European social money to help with the refurbishment, and then we went and raised the rest of the money for the refurbishment from other sources, mainly grant funding, small grant giving agencies and government funding. It cost about £3 million to refurbish. So the building on the right then was occupied by the college. They did sixth form training for children, for young people up to 18 years of age. And it was a sort of local training enterprise. We then had the other side of the building and did the refurbishment work over a 3-year period. Lots and lots of work went into this. The land, it had a great big bit of land at the back, and that was contaminated, arsenic in the soil from the previous use of the building as a factory. So part of the refurbishment was to decontaminate the land. During this period, 2000 to 2003, we continued with the workshop programme out in the community, continued to work with local families, but we also started to work inside the centre. Even when the building was derelict, we ran workshops, bringing children and families into the building site, consulting with them about what they wanted to happen inside the building. It was not quite a blank canvas, but we'd established the need, and we knew that we wanted to put something in there that was for the children and for their families. We established what we call the Children's Forum, which are a group of up to 35 children, all young aged, all local people, 0 to sort of 9-year-olds and their parents, and they came and they helped devise the content of what we were going to put inside the centre. They worked with an exhibition design company, sort of play designers really, to come up with ideas. They created a story of what they wanted to put inside the centre. The sketch there is something that the play designers did from the stories and things the children were telling them. It's like a piece of play equipment, a spaceship type thing, which you'll see it's a little bit later in reality. So over the 3-year period, all of this development work took place. In 2003, we opened to the public for the first time. What you can see here is the content that the children had developed themselves with the play designers. It's what we call the story trail. And the children who come to the centre basically play. It's about open-ended, pure play and learning through play. Everything we do is connected to that motive. So the things you can see here are dotted around on the ground floor. The top right is a princess tea party area where the children can have tea with the princess and make little cups of tea for each other. The middle slide you can see came from the sketch that I showed on the last slide. It's a kind of vehicle of transport. Children can fly it or drive it. And importantly as well, outside the derelict land that was contaminated is now a garden with play equipment. The local community can come into the garden and use the facilities. Okay, so that's 2003. Since then, we've continued to work outside the centre. We've continued to have visitors coming into the centre. The economics of things is that we charge people to come. We charge them an admission price. There's concession prices for local residents. If people are on low income, there's reduced prices for them. But it's important that people are paying for the provision that we provide. So this is the 2003 income. And the important things with this is that then we were very reliant on grants. So pretty much 2/3 of our income was from grant-given sources. Local government, smaller organisations gave us money to run. That went into staff costs, revenue costs for the building, utilities, that sort of thing. We had a small amount of income, as you can see, is 12% was from admissions. But crucially, and this is what we've been able to grow over our history, is we had a rental income from the building. So the college continued to pay us a rent on the building that we occupy. So to support all this activity then, in 2003, our staff structure looked like this. I'm going to show you a little bit later another slide of what it is now. I'm just putting this in because I think it's important to demonstrate how the organisation has had to change over the period that we've been running for. So then the main people who were running things was our education programme. They were responsible for the content of what happened inside the centre, how the children learned through play. And on the other side we had an exhibitions team who developed the artistic content and the story trail. So visitors to the centre, we have sort of two modes really in which we operate. One is with family visitors. As I've explained, they come, they take part in storytelling, they work with professional illustrators, writers, creative people. They form about 60% of our visitors, and that's where the admissions income side of things come from, is families coming and paying to get in. The other side is through school groups, very, very important part of our work. The way that we deliver through play cannot happen in mainstream education setting because there isn't time, or there's not space in the classroom, or they don't have the facility that we have. So schools come to the centre, and we have a structured session which is linked back into the curriculum, the learning games to do with speaking and listening and reading and writing. In our area, as Rachel talked about, there's a lot of languages spoken. Sometimes a class of children will come to the centre and maybe 80% of them don't speak English or have very limited English as a language. So because of the way that we work through play, they can access what we're talking about. We've developed a technique which is called story building, and this happened from inception from 2003. Our facilitators, as you can see, the person in the red t-shirt there, are trained in this technique where they engage with children through play. And what you can see happening here is a story building session. So the children will come, they'll play. The story builder will gather them back together and ask them what they've played. What did you do? What adventure did you have? And the children will tell them, or reenact it, and the story builder takes that story that the children are telling them and tells it back as a kind of communal story, collective story, which the children then can take back. They tell their families, they take it back to school. So it's a very, very powerful way of working. Importantly as well with this, schools pay. They pay £125 for a session. Both the admission price and the school session fee that we charge is subsidised through other charitable work. A school session should cost 3 times that for us to fully recover our costs of a school session, staff time in the building. Okay, so that's the activity historically and what happens in the building. I'm going to hand over to Rachel, who's going to talk a little bit about the projects and the community work that we do.
Okay, so we've obviously talked a lot about the content of our building, what happens within, but it's also important to say that Discover does go out and about and then brings work back into the building again. So we do work with lots of disadvantaged and vulnerable people in the community. We go out to community settings, we go to schools, we work in early years, we work with community groups and voluntary organisations and agencies. We work with lots of parents, toddlers, asylum seekers, lots of different groups basically out and about. These are some of the projects that we've done recently. Obviously this is just a tiny bit of the whole programme that Discover delivers. The City of Stories, which is this project here, was a 3-year project, so we actually got the opportunity to go quite in depth with 13 community groups based in Newham. And what we noticed before we did the project is that there's a commonality with stories. As you all know, lots of stories are shared across the world, and we thought this was a good way of connecting these communities together was through the power of stories. So we went along to these 14 community groups and schools and we recorded people's stories. Basically that's what we did. And we developed a CD and a CD-ROM from this that went to lots of schools and libraries. But then we also did an exhibition as well, which you can see here, which is all based, it's an interactive exhibition which is based on the stories of those 14 communities. They all came along, they all contributed to the exhibition in the centre, so it's kind of going out and coming back into the centre again, which we think is important. The other project, which has been very successful, is Mighty Mega, which has been going for 2 years. It works with children with disabilities, a whole range of disabilities, and we've actually just got further funding for this work, and it's creating a very safe environment, and it's about creative play and it's about opportunities. It's a very high quality project that we deliver. The other project that has had amazing results recently is Catching Words, and again that's delivering, I should move a slide forward, that is delivering our story building technique out and about in the schools. We're in Newham is very much a place where the national targets for literacy are very, very low there, so it's very important that we go out into schools and we deliver our work. As you can see from here already, this project has had outstanding results. So already we've looked at, it's a 50%, but it's an intervention project basically, literacy project. And as you can see already, it's had in reading and writing results from the year that we were in the school and we were delivering the project, is the attainment has gone up by 50%. That's a real tangible, proper result from work that we've been doing in schools recently. So and we're hoping to roll that out and do a lot more work with the Catching Words project, as it's had real tangible results. And finally, I'm going to go, Paul's touched on this already about the Children's Forum, but an important part of our work is giving children a voice. Participation is very important with Discover, and we have had the opportunity recently as well to do lots of work out and about. As I said, we're opposite one of the biggest regeneration sites in Europe at the moment, and we've been able to, our children have acted as consultants to the developers that have come in to Stratford. So we've done a lot of work there with our Children's Forum, going out and actually informing developers about what they would like to see from the developments that are happening. but also the Children's Forum is still very much our stakeholders, and they have a lot to do with the development of the centre. So that's a little bit about that, and I think Paul's going to talk more about that, aren't you?
So the next phase of Discover, I guess a consistent thing throughout the whole history of it was to do with capital refurbishment and a continual investment in the asset that we had of the building. As we delivered the projects that Rachel's talked about, as more and more visitors come to our centre, there was a need for us to deliver more services or to use more space. 2007, the basement was completely derelict, looked like that on the top slide there. Because of the continued investment in the area and the regeneration of the area, we were able to draw on regeneration money, local government money, to refurbish the basement space. And that allowed us to put in an exhibition studio, so we could do further work working with professional artists, and a classroom space where now Mighty Mega takes place, and a big learning resource room. So for us as a centre, it enabled us to carry on doing more work and actually expand the work that we do. So this is how the building looked for the first period, 2003, 2008, 5 years we operated like this. Importantly, the slide on the right or left, depending on which way you're looking at it, is what the front of the building looked like on the high street. That was our high street presence. The area was very rough when we started 2003. A lot of crime, a lot of street crime, particularly at night. As soon as it was getting dusk, there was problems on the street. Very, very high traffic, one-way system around Stratford Centre. So it was very dangerous for children to be in this area. And it meant that we had to close that. We couldn't have that as public access. There was a safer pedestrian route, which was around the back of the building. And this is how our visitors had to arrive to the centre. So come around a side street and in through the back gate there, past the rubbish bins. It worked, people still came, and the quality of experience they got when they got inside the centre was good. But it was prohibitive in terms of the things that we could do, the expansion of more visitors or more people coming to the centre. So we knew that we needed to do something about it. In 2008-9, we started looking for funding to help us do the next phase. We knew what we needed to do. And again, the interest in the area meant that we could tap into more regeneration money that was coming in. Again, local government money. And they paid for us to do this. So as you can see between the two slides, completely transformed the face of the building. For us, I guess it was important because of the high street presence that it allowed us to have. It kind of has changed, and you'll see from the next few slides, it's changed the way we operate, it's changed the way that we have to staff things, had a massive impact, positive impact on us as an organisation. As part of the redevelopment, it was not only about a high street presence, it was about putting a commercial aspect into the work that we do. So at the front of the building, in what is now the door here, the entrance, we put a nice reception area, and as part of the reception area we put a shop and a cafe. Very simply just a coffee machine, and we do simple sandwiches and things like that. We also have quite an expanding book range, so it's linked back into our aims. We specialise in children's books, obviously, and that now forms a significant part of our income, and there's huge expansion there for us to keep on growing the income that we're generating from the shop. It's open to the public, so people can come in, use the cafe, and use the shop. One of the outcomes from the funding that we received was that we had to create jobs as part of the investment. And we've done that. We've actually, the outcome that they wanted us to provide was one job as part of the project. We've actually had to create four to facilitate the front of the building. So I'm going to hand back to Rachel, who's going to go a little bit about the marketing that we do, how we bring visitors into the building.
I think it's important to say that all of the things that Paul was just talked about in regards to the front being changed around and all those sorts of things are all to do with audience development as well, and that's all had impact into our visitor figures. We do use a range of marketing methods. I thought it was important so you could see where all of our visitors are coming from. Obviously we've got there a massive proportion of previous visits, which is very important that we attract visitors to come back. We run over 350 events a year, so that's another way of attracting people back to the building. We use very traditional marketing methods in terms of leaflets, website, e-flyers, all those sorts of things are very important to our marketing mix. But on top of that, we also work very much out and about in the community. This is a big part of the marketing that we do. We work with a community ambassador. She goes out, she talks to lots of community groups, but also we attend lots of free festivals around our five neighbouring boroughs. We deliver an artistic event, but also our community ambassadors always there, always talking to everybody about our facility, and we've realised that this works very well indeed. We also go out on the street quite a lot with our flyers. As we've said before, there's lots of people in our community that don't have English as a first language, so it's actually quite good to have someone in front of them that's explaining the centre and showing pictures, and it's just a much more accessible way of getting hold of people and saying, you know, what a good experience it is to come along. I'll just show you now our visitor figures. As you can see, the front entrance had a massive impact, so our 2010-2011 figures are really very good. And I think that it's important to say within this too, we've maintained our schools, we've upped our programme, we deliver a more variety of school sessions that we've actually developed over the last couple of years, but also that the proportion of audience has obviously expanded. We've got a lot more visitors, but they're also coming from our neighbouring boroughs as well, so the percentage of people coming from our local area has also increased. So it's not people coming from elsewhere. Well, it is, but it's a big increase in our five neighbouring boroughs. 71% of our audience actually comes from those boroughs. So that's a little bit about the marketing. Can I move on? It's not letting me. Brilliant, thank you very much. Yeah. Okay, this is a bit of a fun slide, but this is when we reopened the building after we changed the front entrance round, as Paul showed you earlier. That was a queue of people to get in, and on that day we had 1,800 people come through the centre, which was amazing and very busy, but it just showed that showed the impact of changing the entrance from the back, which you saw from that derelict patch around the back, to the front of the building. And now I'm going to hand you back over to Paul, who's going to talk more about the financial model.
It's important to note that last slide's not what it's like regularly. That was on the opening day, and it was a free day as well, so we didn't charge anybody admission, so that's why it's so busy. We've been talking a lot about visitor figures, about visitors to the centre. We do have a lot of visitors, and we do charge people to come. We've talked about that so much because it forms a significant part of our income. It enables us to do the projects and other aspects of our work. It's part of our business model. So this slide demonstrates what our income streams are now. So this is the last year of trading for us. The important things to note here is our reduced dependence on grants. We're now a third dependent on grant-given funds. And if you remember from the first slide I showed, we were previously 2/3 dependent, very, very heavily dependent, particularly for revenue, such salaries and staff posts. Now we're able to support quite a lot of the staff costs through our income generation. The grants that we receive are sometimes towards capital, sometimes towards projects. The other side of the income that's increased is from the rental income. So we've talked about the regeneration that's been happening in the area. That is attracting business into the area. The area of the high street where we are is slowly becoming transformed. It's still quite a lot of derelict buildings next to us, but the building that's the college we've been able to continue to rent. The space above us we've let out to a training provider. We've got space at the back of us, which we've let out to another arts organisation, which they run their business from. And there's a nursery who provides childcare to local people, who rents another space connected to the garden. As the economy of the area has changed, it's meant that we can charge more rent. So our income from the rent of the building is increasing. We sign a 10 or 15 year lease with the tenants, and that forms a very secure part of our income each year. The other third, and this is the area of growth that I've talked about for us, 19% now is through admissions, and that's continuing to grow. There's also costs associated with that. Obviously the staff costs have to increase, the running costs of the building increase as we get more visitors. But with more visitors, they come and they have a day out, and so they spend money in our cafe and our shop. There's an increase as passing trade increases in the area. The local transport links are getting better and better, so more people are walking past our building and using the cafe. It looks like quite a small percentage on here, but when you look at the income that's generated from the shop and cafe alone, in 2003 it was generating about £6,000. This last year it's generated nearly £60,000. So the growth there you can see over a sort of 10-year period, 9-year period, is quite a lot, and there's more growth there. We think we can probably double the income from the shop over the next 2 to 3 years. So to go with that, as I've mentioned, we've had to restructure the organisation internally as well as externally. With the entrance development, we recognised the need, as the visitor figures increased, what we needed to do was to do this to our operating structure. So we actually introduced members of staff who their sole job is to meet and greet the visitors, to make sure that people have a really nice time. And you can see from Rachel's statistics that our biggest marketing tool is word of mouth and people who've been on a previous visit. So if they have a good time, they come back. So we set up this structure where we have the people who meet and greet. Crucially, we still have the story builders. Really, really important that the artistic content, the delivery of the work that we do is still there right through everything. So the story builder team are active in the centre every day doing storytelling and events. So the future for us, this is sort of the next few years of projects that we've got on the go. The basement space that was refurbished, the 2 slides on the far side are of a previous exhibition which was Pirates, an interactive, immersive exhibition. Children could play at being pirates, but in there we delivered lots of stories connected to the theme. The lower picture is the current exhibition that we have on, which is called Welcome to Monsterville, exhibition about monsters again, immersive play environment. Children can come, take part in activities and play at being monsters. With all of the work, the important thing to note is that the story building and the storytelling that we do continues in the centre and outside of the centre. We're rolling out some of the models like we've talked about, the Catching Words programme. We're going out into mainstream schools. We're trying to expand that area of our work, as well as expand the centre offer. And then finally, this last picture here is an illustration from a professional illustrator from a project that we're doing next year linked to the Olympics called Story Cloud. And that's a funded project. Olympic funding has come to that. Digital-based storytelling is the aim of the project, where we are going to aim to get it into 500,000 homes through the internet. Children will be invited to write a story, submit it, and then the professional illustrator will illustrate the child's story, and then it will be displayed online alongside other professional authors' work as well. So this is one of my favourite pictures of Discover, a child in a bubble. This is from one of the play pieces inside the centre. So really just to summarise our presentation, the work that we do is important. This year, for the first time, the financial model of Discover is sustainable. The funds that we generate through the commercial activity actually now can pay for the utilities. It can pay for the lighting and everything that it takes to run the story trail. The staff are all supported by that economic model. Obviously we continue to rely on grants. That's still a third of our income, but it's for the project work that we do. So that's the end of our presentation.
Ewentualnego uzupełnienia prezentacji, a nie problemowe, bo do tych będziemy mogli wrócić w czasie dyskusji, dobrze? I Rachel i Paul zostają z nami po lunchu. Czy są jakieś pytania takie, które byście Państwo chcieli, macie pewnie niedosyt i bardzo proszę.
Good morning. My name is Krzysztof Z. Łuczkiewicz. I am from Wszechnica Obywatelska Samorządowa in Dolne Miasto. I like speaking in Polish language, but two questions. Proszę Państwa, my działamy tutaj bardzo blisko po drugiej stronie rzeki. Mamy bardzo podobną sytuację, jak widzę, jak Wasza dzielnica, tam gdzie pracujecie, co robicie. Robicie coś fantastycznego. Natomiast chciałbym zapytać o to, w jaki sposób zdobyliście zaufanie władz, że dały Wam na tyle lat lokal, bo my niestety nie mamy tego szczęścia. Ile lat, że tak powiem, działaliście w tym lokalu, w tym budynku i nie musieliście płacić tej dzierżawy, którą zaczęliście teraz płacić? I drugie pytanie to w jaki sposób w tym tyglu narodów, w tych tyglu języków, które tam jest 180 języków z tego co zrozumiałem, to w jaki sposób zdobyliście zaufanie tych ludzi, rodziców przede wszystkim tych dzieci, że współpracujecie z nimi, bo widzę, że z tego co widzę ze zdjęć, z tego co mówiliście, to i forum dzieci, i organizacje rodziców, w jaki sposób to się odbyło po prostu. Dziękuję bardzo. Very thank you.
Czy może jeszcze pytanie?
The lease it's actually it's a 99-year lease on a peppercorn rent, which means that we don't actually pay any rent. I think we might pay £1 in the first year, and after that we don't pay anything. The council has quite a lot of buildings, particularly in Stratford, but throughout Newham. They own the buildings, and at the time and still now, the buildings are a hindrance, a financial hindrance to them in some cases. So, in part, it was a way of passing on the running of that building to us. It's in our care, it's a full repairing lease. We're responsible for all of the upkeep, everything that happens to the building we need to pay for. So I think that was one of the council's motives. The other is from a regeneration point of view. Quite often bringing arts into an area has a transformative effect. They very much saw us as a family offer. There was nothing at the time for creative art and or for families.
Well, I think as well the partnership was very strong in terms of the Gulbenkian Foundation and the Stratford Regeneration project that was already operating at that time, and Community Links. Community Links, it was very well established at that time, and it's a really quality project that happens in the UK. So I actually think the trinity of those things really helped us to approach the council and for us to get the building. In terms of how we went into communities and how we managed to gain the trust of those community groups, you know, if you work in a similar field, it's tough to do that. It is very, very tough. But we had a team that went out there, and literally it was through lots and lots of work and in-depth projects. It was doing lots of things out there for free and then bringing people back into the building again. And it was really through that. For example, with the project that I talked about before, where we then formed an exhibition from the City of Stories, we had 3 years there, and that's when you can really do a really good quality project and really get into the communities you want. It's through that extended project. So that, I'd say that's what we did.
Okay. Jeszcze jakieś pytanie? Nie widzę, także zostawiamy, rozumiem, na dyskusję. A jeszcze przed zaproszeniem Państwa na przerwę, którą przedłużamy do godziny 12:40. Wracamy tutaj o godzinie 12:40. Chciałbym prosić, żebyśmy podziękowali Paulowi i Seamusowi, ponieważ oni już nie wrócą na salę. Dziękuję bardzo za tą część. Zapraszam.